I feel like Ben Toms has been name-checked in pretty much every single one of these presentations, so I'll rope him into mine as well. So this is all his fault, tangentially. So we hosted the London Apple admins at my office at ThoughtWorks a couple of years back now. And what Ben never tells you is a bit like Fight Club. You know, if it's your first time in your office, then you have to present. And he tells you this after the invites have gone out, and it's too late and you can't back down. Thank you. So I did that, and I survived. And I did another one, and I survived. So I thought, what the hell, I'll pitch something for Macaduck. Let's see how that goes. So welcome to You're Not Installing That on my laptop. I tell of MDM, privacy, transparency, identity, laptop management, and cat herding at ThoughtWorks, where I work. So, hi, I'm Steve, and I work at ThoughtWorks. So, I'm part of the internal TechOps team. So, I guess almost 200 people scattered all around the globe who provide support for my colleagues, so ThoughtWorkers. So, we look after desktop support, office build-outs, we run our own internal apps and services, and I'm actually part of the identity team. So, we look after user accounts, user management, and we're currently tasked with pulling out every single piece of AD infrastructure we can find. And actually getting an MDM up and running is kind of a big part of that. I also make no apologies for reusing this photo. I love this photo. So the computer is a Commodore PET, so from 1977. Although Wikipedia tells me that this model is the later one because of the later keyboard. My dad may have pinched it from the office. I'm reckoning about 82. And this is probably where my love of green text on black backgrounds actually came from. So this is a formative moment right here. So ThoughtWorks. So basically, we're a technology consultancy. So we work with organizations, to harness emerging tech. We've got 42 offices in 15 countries, I think. I've been here a while. They may have opened another one. It seems to be the way this stuff goes. In the UK, you might not have heard of us, but you may well have heard of some of our clients. So we've worked with the Morrison Supermarket Group. We've worked with The Guardian, John Lewis Partnership. We work with all sorts of companies across all sorts of business sectors. So basically, we help our clients solve difficult problems, and we do it by writing custom software with them or for them. So, and more often than not, we use Mac computers to do that. Otherwise, I guess I wouldn't be here. So the company itself is built around 3 pillars. So this is, I guess, the pitch. So we want to build a sustainable business. We want the company to be around for 100 years or more. We want to build awesome software. And we strive for social and economic justice. Well, that means all sorts of different things to different people. But ThoughtWorkers in general are very passionate, very technical, very knowledgeable. They know what they want. They know what they don't want. They don't want management, spoilers. We have a really flat structure, not much in the way of hierarchy, and we hire a real mix of people. I think we feel that bringing diverse skills in helps find better solutions to problems. So I stole this from a colleague of mine, but it's basically true. So the way that we deal with laptops, other companies talk about BYOD. We do BYOD, only we buy the devices and we give them to people, and then they act as if they're theirs. That's kind of what we do. So, and obviously you're a consultant, you're on the road, your laptop is, you live and die by that laptop. So full of awesome code, covered in stickers that somebody has to peel off eventually, and with the occasional battle scar. I know, I love this one. So I love this picture for 2 reasons, actually. First of all, you'll notice there's a display port connector and a USB, so it lives. He's busy backing up the last of his data. It basically bounced off the front of a Boris bike and went under a bus, then a cab. It's also awesome because a colleague of mine won the internet for an afternoon because he posted this on Twitter. In fact, I've stolen his picture. Sorry, Simon. I stole his picture because he put this on Twitter with the caption, "Finally managed to quit Vim." Anyway. So, ThoughtWorkers hold the TechOps team to really, really high standards. So, as an example, maybe a year or so ago, we decided we'd change our antivirus vendor. So, the InfoSec team built a tool called an interception bridge. They man in the middle all the traffic that the antivirus client was sending to and from. They published it internally. They shared it with anyone in the company who was interested. Then we have a special interest group. We have a mailing list called Security in Our DNA. And the members of that group and the InfoSec team worked together to put together a policy that worked without being intrusive. So, most things that we do are a partnership with our end users. So, I mentioned the cat herding, but I think it's probably fair. So it's pretty much unheard of for us to do anything in a because I said so, because this has to happen. Most things we do are part of a negotiation, I suppose. It's not always been like this, perhaps. So historically, the company was formed in 1993. We were based in Chicago, and I guess in those days, things were much more conventional. So Windows PCs, bound to Active Directory, on-premise servers, which was fun, actually, because when I first started, those machines were still in the Chicago office. So you'd notice when Chicago woke up and got online, because all of our services slowed down. A bit of group policy, and that was about it. And the thing is, I've no idea when the first Mac actually arrived at ThoughtWorks. That's an impressive animation that's not animating. But anyway, so I arrived in 2012, and I think in the UK business at that point, we were probably at, I don't know, sort of 70, 80% Mac, potentially more. And I think it's an interesting one, because I feel like if we decided, hey, let's go out and buy some management tooling right now, and it became part of the policy and part of the culture that there was a management agent on your machine, we'd have management. But instead, I had Windows sysadmin colleagues who don't work there anymore, who kind of stuck their head in the sand and they ignored the oncoming Mac tide and played with their Windows AD boxes. And before we knew it, it was a tidal wave, and everything was Mac. And in fact, we brought it on ourselves as well. We decided that we would make Mac the default for all new hires going forward from about 2013, because it was too painful to give somebody a Windows machine and have them come back 6 months later going, actually, I kind of want to be like everybody else. I also don't know if it's a tail wagging the dog thing, but we tried to get away from on-premise and we moved more and more to cloud-hosted stuff. So I don't know if Mac is part of that move, or whether moving to SaaS means that actually it doesn't matter what hardware you're using, because you can be productive on anything you want to be. Either way, a lot of Macs. But the business wants to scale. So the way we've scaled in the past, it's not that we'll build a giant office and fill it full of people. I think what we try to do is it's almost, we open new regions and new businesses. So we'll open in a new country, and then there's kind of like a startup culture. There's a buzz, we get people on board, we build up the office, so things are relatively small, people are stuffed full of Kool-Aid, things are pretty localized. And then once that business is established and it's done, we move on to the next region and the next and the next and the next. And so you can have this giant company, and yet, each office feels quite local and quite small. So even in one of our biggest regions, so in India, we have over 1,000 employees in India, but spread across 8 offices across the continent. And the thing is, that's fine. And those small offices lead to sort of lots of local processes and lots of different processes. And those work, but lots of manual stuff, lots of filling in, chunky databases. It's inefficient. It's creaking at the seams. We can do better stuff, but also it frees us up. We've got more time to build cool things and do other stuff rather than endlessly updating Google Sheets, because that's no fun. And also, you start to hit a point as a consultancy when your clients are asking, so what's your security posture? What management tools do you have? How do you keep our data safe? And in fact, even forget client data, it's our data too, our own internal data. How do we keep that safe? How can we be sure that everything's just so? So I think finally we cracked in 2015, and we thought, that's enough, let's use some technology. Hey, we're a technology company. Who'd have thunk it? So part of the delay, I think, was we were looking for that mythical single pane of glass. So I think in a recent episode of the Mac Admin podcast that was discussed, everyone wants this single pane of glass to all of your devices. And that made the task really hard. And then eventually our CIO relented and said, I give up. You're 80%, 90% Mac. Let's buy a product that manages the Macs and be done with it. So we got on some calls, and we spoke to some vendors. And at the time, at least, one vendor stood out head and shoulders above the others, and that was Jamf. The product was mature. There's a great community around Jamf Nation. I booked my JNUT ticket. I was going to Minneapolis. But transparency is kind of really important where we work. So, I mentioned our antivirus rollout. Same thing, right? We want to communicate this change of plan, or this change of direction, I suppose. And bear in mind, we haven't got any administrator tools right now, so anyone who enrolls in Jamf is going to have to, buy in. So we figured, let's get an email out there. Let's ask. So we've got an email thread called Town Hall where we discuss all the big, geopolitical issues. And can we manage your Macs, please? And we put, hey, so we'd quite like to install a management agent on your Macs that we bought you. Are you cool with that? Yeah, no, people weren't cool with that. Yeah, you're not. No, there'll be none of that on my laptop. So we got stuff like this. So hey, maybe you choose to install things like Dropbox. Well, why is this different? Well, because I choose it, I don't have it enforced. Great. So even if I trust TechOps, and I love the fact that maybe they don't, how do I know that this evil third-party agent isn't doing anything else that you don't know about? Yep, so we push back. Closed source, commercial, don't like it, don't want it. And the final one, of course, it's just, I feel like we're losing our culture. This ran for like 5 pages, and it's still there, and I dragged my way back through it again to find a few decent quotes. But the upshot was, basically, a root level agent was not great, or it betrayed everything that ThoughtWorks stood for as a company. So eventually our CEO had to wade into the thread and sort of separate the warring parties and calm everything down. So that was it. We weren't installing Jamf today or any other day. Perhaps we could have dug in and sort of insisted, but civil disobedience. People are administrators and they're smart, they'll just remove it. So we paused. So this is the bit where I realize I've put an embedded YouTube video in and it's never going to play. Actually, saying that, I realize I have it on QuickTime, so I can just get the annoying music anyway. Oh, look at that. This whole cloud first thing, they're just other people's computers, right? There we go. Oh. Yeah, the thing is, though, it's actually really hard to get out of this, I discovered. See? But, go on if I do that. Or that. Nah, OK. The idea was I would play this for slightly longer than was comfortable. But now I'm sort of feeling quite sad about that. Can I actually here? Yeah. OK, so I've skipped a bit. So, we waited for about a year. But hey, I mentioned we're cloud first. We work with Okta as our single sign-on partner. And they mentioned to us, hey, we're building an MDM tool. So we said, great, could we get on board? Because we're suckers for punishment, we'll do this again. But Okta's mobility management tool, or OM, as it was kind of christened by us, had 2 really awesome selling points. So first of all, the licensing was on a per-user model, which meant no matter how many devices you had, a phone, a tablet, a laptop, that's one license, so that makes the finance team happy. But the other thing that it did, which was awesome, was it didn't do this. There was no third-party management agent or binary or anything, which at the time was kind of unique in the marketplace. So it felt like this would be a much easier sell to our privacy-focused end users because basically, Apple defined what you can do here. And of course, this is even documented at developer.apple.com. So if you really want to know what sort of evil powers you might be granting me, you can find out. So we figured that would be a pretty good starting point. So we thought we'd do some trials. So like I say, part of TechOps, 200 people across the globe in different roles doing different things. Sorry. Right. So we figured they'd do as guinea pigs. So we rolled it out to those people. And our first piece of feedback was that you can do what now? People didn't like that very much. And then I guess the next thing, I suppose, was we didn't... Dr. Ian Malcolm's a really wise guy. He knows a lot of stuff, although no one ever listens to him because they're still making Jurassic Park sequels. And So we discovered we had the ability to set some basic security posture. Hey, let's set a passcode policy and maybe lock the screen after 5 minutes. This is cool. We can do this. But it turns out, you know what? No, people hate that stuff. I mean, really, we'd agreed that we were trying to do this to trust but verify. So we trust people, right? We know that if you work at home, it's a different sort of security posture to being in a busy coffee shop or being in the office or the client site. So we removed that stuff, and we spoke to Okta, and we said, could you guys remove the remote wipe stuff? It doesn't have to be part of the policy. I think if you read Apple's spec, it's not a requirement. And they were confused, but sure, they removed it. So any new laptop enrolled, we didn't have that power. I think we figured, provided we could be sure that the laptop was encrypted, and we could remote lock it, that was probably good enough. So we reckon, okay, we can't wipe your machine, and we won't set annoying policies. So is that enough? We weren't sure. There's still that transparency piece. So at this point, enter Gamera or Gamera or however I'm supposed to pronounce this particular Japanese monster. So again, the InfoSec team love naming their internal tools after monsters. I don't really know why. But basically, so I went on Giphy and it found me this. And I wish our app looked this cool, but it doesn't. But basically, so Okta had promised us a user view into the app, so a read-only view for users. And that didn't quite materialize. But then they promised that they would build us an API, and that didn't really materialize either. But basically, we hacked it. We were able to hack their I don't even know how it was done. I don't want to know, actually. But we built this little SAML app, and it gives you a view of what we can see on your laptop. He says clicking buttons as nothing happens. Oh, there we go. So that's an example of my old machine. And the point is that's literally everything that Okta hold, and thus that we know about your machine. And actually the UI looked a bit more like that, kind of friendly. So we had Gamera, we had OMM, and we were kind of ready to push this out to the whole company. We'd written some comms. We were kind of scared, but we figured, we'd got away from this closed source agent stuff. So what could possibly go wrong? Yeah, High Sierra could happen. So it's not so much that the mountain came to Steve. And it's not so much that the mountain came to Steve, the mountain sort of fell on Steve, really, because 10, 13, 12, 2 happened even, sorry. So then we have user-approved MDM, we have secure kernel extension loading, all that ukulele stuff everyone's talking about, like all of that kicks in. But that's not a problem, I guess, because, or is it? So, hey, we're feeling kind of smug, actually. Hey, you need an MDM, right? Well, we've just agreed to roll one out. We're ahead of the curve. This is awesome. But obviously, but we might, so maybe we need that DEP stuff, though. But that's cool. We've got an MDM. We're fine. Right, but, yeah, no, it doesn't, actually. No, it doesn't do that. Yeah, not in 2018. No plans to implement any of those features. Fun. So now, what the hell do we do? I was going to play the intermission thing again, but I don't think anyone needs to hear that again. So, meanwhile, we're a global company, 42 offices, 15 countries. We do a lot of video conferencing. And we decided that we would move to a new VC product. We're using Zoom for Rooms. It's pretty cool. I highly recommend it. But the way that Zoom works is it's designed around you have a PC or Mac in the room, and then you steal the keyboard, and the end user interacts with an iPad. So I mentioned no management. I'm about to have 200 plus iPads globally to manage, and no real way to manage them. So I mean, the only other thing to do was not panic. Instead, just share the love. I went to the London Mac admins Slack channel, and I asked them. So I figured I'd maybe get away with this on a giant screen. But basically I'm asking, let's start a fight. What's the best MDM out there? So we wanted low cost. We wanted cloud hosted, something that would integrate nicely with SAML and Okta, so we could use it via single sign-on. We wanted DP and VPP, partly because that was going to make the rollout of the iPad significantly easier, but also because I had this ulterior motive, right? My cunning plan was I would start building my zero-touch workflows using simple MDM, and then drag that out as a big stick with which to beat Okta. Hey guys, look, your competitor is doing this. Please, please, can you add this feature? But that's not really how it works when it comes to beating people with sticks. So I guess by this point, it's Christmas 2017. I've been fairly good 2017. You know, I've occasionally done my chores. I fill the dishwasher. I'm not a terrible person. And all I really wanted for Christmas was I wanted, you know, our chosen MDM provider, Okta, to support, you know, DEP and user-approved kernel extension loading and all that stuff. But what I got for Christmas instead was a formal notification that that wasn't happening, and that actually their plan was to transition away from the product longer term. That was it. They were getting out of the MDM market completely. Nice. At which point, you know, I realized that a few months previous, I'd sent, you know, feeling smug, I'd sent this email to Laura and the team here at Macaduck, and I thought to myself, this will be awesome. So this is my talk. And at the end, right, at this point, we will have this tale of win, or, you know, it's going to be hilarious. And now I find myself with, you know, a month and a half to go, and I'm like, well, actually, what the hell am I going to do? This is going to be actually, this is a really short film. So, turns out, you know, I always have a plan B, right? So I went back to simple MDM. Why? Well, it was already set up in our environment behind SAML. It did everything we needed. It already has an API, which meant we could easily port the data into Gamma, so we still had that transparency that people were really keen on. Thing is, though, it still does the remote wipe feature, and we were pretty sure we didn't want that. So I asked in the Slack channel, and if you're looking at or playing around with simple MDM, I highly recommend that you do this. The Slack channel is awesome. It's, you know, I think Taylor owns the company, and he's there providing all sorts of useful advice. So he thinks I'm nuts, but I'm trying to explain that you know, this is what's going to happen if we roll out a product with more power than we should have. I do like the fact there is both a pitchfork and a flaming sort of reaction, though. Kind of awesome. So we asked them, and they turned around removing remote wipe in, you know, like 24 hours. This is pretty awesome. And so what it really proves, as a person, I need deadlines because, you know. So our first batch of machines went live in simple MDM last week. So what did I learn? There are many things that I learned. I guess the first piece is that finding an MDM that makes, you know, very, you know, smart, opinionated administrative users happy, and that makes IT happy is really, really difficult. I also learned that being transparent in all of this, although it was kind of painful after the kicking we got in the town hall thread, is worth doing because, you know, you need to bring people with you. If you can't convince people to enroll in, you know, to use these tools, enroll in management, then you're never going to be able to do the things you want to do with it. Another part of that, I think, is that people fear the unknown. So when it came to Jamf, we didn't even get as far as trialing the product because it's a closed source binary that can do all sorts of things, and I don't know what they're going to be. And that was it. You know, as soon as there's this notion there's this evil monster on people's machines, they're not going to be part and parcel. The other cool thing actually was that going agentless kind of means less vendor lock-in. So we were actually able to take everything we'd learnt from OMM, move it to simple MDM, and it was pretty painless. And I guess potentially if we need to move vendor again, provided we're focusing on agentless, you know, we can do that. And I guess my final point, and perhaps the most important one, is if you're going to give your first ever conference talk at a really large venue in London, make sure that everything's lined up and all your stuff actually works sooner than maybe a week before you start. And I'm done. Thank you very much.